Okay, so we wait until it gets passed to us. Okay. Okay. I don't think I need more on, but thank you. I just want to make sure I have it on.
Yeah, you see the red button. There is a red line.
Okay. Just push the button.
The whole time. Yeah. That makes sense.
Please do speak right into it. We also want to make sure this is on now.
Okay.
Hopefully open it up.
I don't know. I don't know. Tom, do we stay seated? We stand up or Tom, Peter, what's, okay, just check.
I'm just gonna have the door right there. Is it policy? It's gonna go a little over that. That's
I have keys for the opening and closing. I won't do it for all of them. Just so you know. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Sarah Whitfield. I'm the chair of the select board. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedules to be here. Several folks approached us and asked if the town could sponsor this. I just want to thank John for collecting some of the questions beforehand, and all of you who sent in questions. We tried to collect as many as we could and put them into as many questions to cover as many issues as we could. So we hope to get through all of the questions that we have tonight. Tom Joyce, big thanks to him. He has experience moderating. We're basically using some of the same rules that we have used in previous select board forums. So hopefully you'll find this familiar. We'll get through as many questions as we can. And again, appreciate you being here. And I will thank again, Tom, and we will not keep you here more than 7:30. We want to be respectful of your time. So with that, I will turn it over to Tom.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I might repeat a little of what Sarah just said about how this is going to be run. I will allow the candidates who are here to introduce themselves and tell you their names. Everybody was invited. We have 5 of the 6 candidates present. The way we're going to run this is we're going to start with an opening statement or introduction. Each candidate will get 2 minutes. I will run a timer, which will be just a general guide as to where we are. If we get over a little bit, there's not going to be any overt punishments, but we're going to try to keep the answers brief so that we can get through everybody. Once we've done that, we're going to run through the questions that Sarah provided. The candidates got provided the questions just before this. They didn't get them in advance, but they have seen them. They were provided, as Sarah said, by members of the community. We'll also get 2 minutes for answering each of the questions, and we'll rotate who starts first. So we'll start at that end with Jonathan Barnes, and then we'll move down, and each candidate will get a chance to answer questions first. So with that, I think we've got all of the rules laid out. The one thing is, this isn't a forum where we're gonna have an open session for questions from the floor. And, you know, a quote from my third grade teacher, Mrs. Jacobs, comes to mind. She said, "I will tolerate no more outbursts from you." And so with that, we will get started. Jonathan, would you like to begin with a 2-minute introduction and overview?
I'm Jonathan Barnes. Everybody hear me all right? I'm not a public speaker by any means. I'm even worse than a microphone. So I'll start off by apologizing. I've been on patrol for 2 days. I've got 28 hours in the last, since 4 a.m. yesterday. So I'm dead on my feet, but I have enough respect for everybody that showed up tonight to listen to the questions and answers, to show it myself. So I think the first question here is part of our 2 minutes of why we're a unique candidate. I'm not sure if that's part of the introduction, but basically, I'm not a politician. I'm a farm boy raised in Windsor, Maine, with a lot of the same issues that our kids face today: domestic violence, food insecurities, financial issues, hardships growing up. Which helped me relate with a lot of kids that I work with in school. I spent the last 2 years working as a school resource officer here in Wiscasset. I've been in Wiscasset police for going with 6 years, going on 7 years now. November will be 7 years. Thoroughly love my time in the school, building relationships with the students and their parents. And basically I'm running for the school board because the parents asked me to. I had multiple reach out, and we had a lot of good candidates that were going to run this year. But people reached out to me and said, "We want you to run. You were a voice for us when our kids were in school. We want you to continue to be a voice for us on the board." I went to a small private Christian school when I grew up. Graduated at 17, went straight in the military, came out of the military, worked corrections, went to the public sector, worked in a union shop for 5 years, got married and some kids, and then came back into the uniform here in Wiscasset, been here ever since. So I don't want to go over my 2 minutes. I don't want to ramble too much. I'm tired, I can't think straight, but that's basically me in a nutshell. And as we go down through the questions they have prepared for us, I will expound as much as I can on who I am, what I think.
Can we hear well enough? Oh, it's good.
My name is Ina Demaris, and I am a resident of Wiscasset, of course. I came from Indonesia about 50 years ago, and my daughter went to school here, graduated from here, Wiscasset schools, and now she's a teacher in Portland also. I used to substitute teach here for 10 years, and I learned a lot from the teachers here. They're really doing a good job, and they're doing as much as they can. Whatever comes to them with the class sizes that is larger than usual. Okay, I don't have a personal agenda here because I don't have any students in the school. So my main point is to make sure that our children get the education that they deserve. And also the staff will get what, that they need to do to live in Wiscasset and other places. Okay. Well, yeah, I am a teacher in Portland, and I know curriculums and different things that the students need. But in Portland, it's different than here in Wiscasset. But no matter what, education is education, and we need to make sure that our children are successful. Thank you.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Betsy Kyle. Actually, my name on the ballot will appear as Elizabeth Kyle, so don't be confused. I moved here to Wiscasset in 2018. I'm a retired teacher. I taught in central Massachusetts for maybe 23 years, including being director at summer camps and running an after-school program. And I've been involved in education probably since I went to school. So I majored in elementary ed, and then I got a master's degree in education. And everything I've done in my adult working life has been around working with kids, parents, administrators, school boards. When I came to Wiscasset, I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do. I thought it was kind of done with kids and parents too, and administrators too. But I decided sort of been drawn back into the classroom or into the school system actually by Kathleen Pastori, who was the elementary principal a few years back. And I have a little bit of a design experience as a stylist and a stager. So she had me come in, actually, it's my idea, to fill the display cases at the entrance of the elementary school with something other than COVID masks and first aid equipment. Oh dear, 30 seconds. So I came in, redid those display cases, moved from the display cases to the library, moved from the library to teaching science. When I get to wear my lab coat and go into the 3rd grade and the 4th grade and the 5th grade and get them ready for state testing. Fantastic job. I'm here to help students get exactly what they need in the Wiscasset schools. Time. Goodbye. Don't talk too much.
That's not one of my problems. I talk a lot. Doug Merrill, those of you that don't know me, I've lived in town here now for 40 years of my adult life. And I have a construction company. I pride myself on honesty and quality in everything I do. I coached youth sports and at the high school for several years. Let's get down to this. Wiscasset is not alone in its issues with its education system. The entire country is failing our students through the current educational law. It is time to think outside the box to seek changes that will allow us to move forward with better results. These changes will require input from school administrators, teachers, parents, and students. It will take a great deal of time and effort. Transparency from the school board and participation of the public can lead our school system to a stronger sense of community and better learning results. It is imperative that everyone, including you, stay involved, and that all ideas are heard, respected, and considered. The responsibility of a school committee is to give our students the best education possible, keeping in mind our fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers of the community. In all of this, we must be guided by common sense. I believe that together we can make a difference for the better. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tracy Whitney. I moved to Wiscasset 3 years ago. I am a retired teacher from Vermont, and I have not only been a teacher, I've been the director of a program. I have been on a school board for my former school. It was an advisory school board, not the same kind of school board you all have here. You're appointed to the school board to serve a 3-year term, and I just finished with that term this year. I came to Wiscasset with the love of Wiscasset. We had vacationed here for a very long time, and it's a lovely place. And it broke my heart when I started to see what the school scores looked like. When I started hearing some of the things that, some of the mumbles, some of the things said about the school. I work very hard for children. Since I've been here, I do a story time at the library for young children every week. On Halloween, I do a costume exchange for families so that they can bring in old costumes, and I clean them and mend them and hand them out for free. I'm part of the Pirates of Federal Street. We do all of the big displays and hand out all kinds of things for the children. I believe in doing things for the children in this community. And that's why I'm stepping forward for the school board, is because I believe that we need to do what's best for the children in our community.
So now you'll go first to the next question.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so now we'll get into the first question that was provided earlier tonight. Again, you'll have 2 minutes to answer. You'll see a sign go up that says 30 seconds if you're getting close. You'll hear the buzzer go off if you passed it, and that would be the point to wrap it up. This first question overlaps some with what you just said. The question is, please tell us why you are running for school board and what makes you a unique candidate. So what would probably be good is to focus on what makes you a unique candidate.
Okay, what makes me a unique candidate? Okay. I came from a school system that is completely different from here. Okay, and when I started substituting at the Wiscasset Primary School, oh my goodness, in 1992 or something like that, I guess. I had to learn from the teachers, I had to learn from the students, and it's so different, and I had to completely change my way of teaching. It's more like we are teaching the students here how to think, how to make sure they can get the learning that they needed. And it's not like you open the head and you just pour things in there. They can think, they can talk to each other, they can write about things that they wanted to write. Because where I grew up, I couldn't write what I wanted to write. I had to write exactly like what the book is saying. So there is no thinking process. But here now, it's like the students are taught how to think, how they feel, and what they want to do when they grow up. So it's such a refreshing thing. And now this is like my 30th year of teaching. Substitute teaching 10 years, and now 23 years in Portland I've been teaching. So does it go back to him or what?
You need me to repeat the question, Betsy?
No, she wasn't sure which way to send the mic.
Does it go to
Betsy.
him?
Oh, okay.
Got it.
There we
Same direction. I'm sorry. I didn't hear what you said.
All right, what makes me unique to other school board candidates, maybe? I think is that I come from Massachusetts, where the curriculum standards, the curriculum frameworks are something that as a teacher, we had to follow to the letter. I mean, it's becoming in the state of Massachusetts, how well your students do on their tests is going to be reflecting on your evaluation. So it's something that you have to pay close attention to. We had our lesson plan books checked out by our administrator every week. So you had to have a, really exact plan in your plan book to know that you were going to meet the standards that were being taught. And I think it was a bit of an eye opener to come to Wiscasset and realize if this is post-COVID. So a lot of these students that I was meeting, trying to teach science to them, had really missed a big chunk of their education because of COVID. And I was, focused on 3rd grade, 4th grade, and 5th grade, but mostly 5th grade because they were about to move to the middle school. And I felt like I owed them some real basic science skills. So I guess my goal in saying all of that is that I learned probably from my mother, who taught school for 34 years, that you're supposed to meet students where they are. And my goal, I think, in being on the school board would be to help meet students where they are, but raise that standard for them so that they fit into the world that they're about to step into.
Well, I'm not involved with any of the schools anywhere in any way, shape, or form. I just think I can bring a common sense approach to some of the decisions that are made. One of the things I see happening is the morale and attitudes of the community and the school system they're in the tank, they're in the dumpster. And we have to work hard to fix that. And it's going to take a lot of hard work for everybody, and everybody's going to have to be honest in the process. When you have to, if the hard questions have to be asked, I'm going to ask them. You know, people need to know, there's a lack of transparency with information that is passed out. We have to find a way for everybody to be on the same page, so we can at least roll the boat in the same direction. Because we're failing our children terribly. Other than that, you know, all I can say is I'll work hard to better the school system, within the, guidelines that we have to work with.
And for me, first of all, I want to talk about why I am running for school board. I'm running for school board because I see a need. I have been a teacher. I have been an administrator in the school, running a program, and I have also been on a school board. I want to see the trust built again between the parents, the teachers, the administrators, and the school board. And I believe, like Doug just said, that we do need to make some hard decisions. We do need to be transparent. We need to be very clear with what the policies, the procedures, our discussions, all of those things need to be out there so that trust can be built between all of the constituents. And so our children have a better chance, because right now the schools are not doing well. We all know that. And I feel like I'm called to this because of my background. I've only been in town 3 years, but I feel very strongly that I have some of the skills necessary to make Wiscasset, the schools here, a better place. And I'd really like the chance to try.
I kind of touched on this in my opening. It was kind of a first question for my introduction, but why I'm running for the school board, basically, because I've walked these halls the past 2 years with your kids or grandkids, seeing with these students, talking to them, building relationships with them, hearing their concerns first and foremost. We can't get the kids in a position where they can learn. You can't even teach them in the first place. A lot of these kids are showing up, not eating, not sleeping, being exposed to violence at home. So they need that love first thing, get them in a position where they can even learn. What makes me unique as a candidate, I think I am a parent with school grade kids. I get a son turning 10 in a couple months. I got a daughter who's 7 and a stepson that goes to Wiscasset, who will be 7 next Sunday. So I know as a parent, the pressing concerns that are going on in all school districts, but especially unique here to Wiscasset. We're not Portland, we're not Boston, we're not anywhere else. I've never been a teacher, I've never been an administrator, but I bring the unique perspective that I'm a current parent in the district right now, seeing, and at the same time with the SRO the past 2 years. So seeing all the concerns that were going on in the schools and being able to address them. I was raised somewhere between Jesus and John Wayne, depending on the day you meet me. I'm more close to one than the other. I am, get what you see. Again, I'm here as a voice for the parents, for the people. Parents are asking questions, parents will want to see specific things done or changed. And I'm one of the parents who are pretty tired of the answer of, we're handling it, we'll deal with it, trust us. That doesn't work. We want transparency, we want accountability, we want to know that as an elected official, you are an elected official. Your personal opinions and personal thoughts may benefit the group in the community, but that's not what you're elected for. You're elected by the people who put you in that position to do what they wanted, not what you wanted. And I think we need to restore that balance back to the board.
Okay, can you pass the microphone down to Betsy? We are going to move on to question number 2, and Betsy will answer first. The question is, what do you believe is the most pressing issue facing our schools, and how would you propose that we address it? If your answer involves staff or administrators, we ask that you avoid using any names, just use the titles.
Well, I think I need to say as a, not a disclaimer, but my experience, I don't hear anything. Oh, no, it's on. Can you hear me? Oh, there we go. I'm glad I didn't say anything important that was wasted. The disclaimer is that I don't have experience at the middle school and the high school here in Wiscasset. My only experience is at the elementary school. But so the things that I'm going to address about most pressing issues have more focus on the elementary school. We need a new principal, apparently. We're obviously a small district with a small student population in a period of time when there's a teacher shortage. But I guess I'm hearing, as I listen to what everybody's saying up here, there's an issue between fostering, better communication between the school and the parents. But I feel like, and I don't know whether this applies to this question, but I feel like it's important to say, after working at the elementary school, that is a group of amazing teachers who are working really hard to deal with some of the things that you mentioned. Coming to school, they haven't slept well, they haven't eaten well, they've got issues at home with violence or drugs or whatever. But I've worked in many of those classrooms with many of those teachers, and I don't know, I bring lots of experience being in a classroom, and I feel like they deserve our support. That, to me, encouraging communication between students, parents, administrators, everybody who's on the playing field.
Well, I have a couple of things here. One is I think the public feels marginalized and that they're not allowed more participation in discussions and decisions regarding the school system. They need to be involved in these discussions. It's not really that hard to fix. There seems to be a lack of transparency in the flow of information to the public, and it creates confusion and a sense of distrust. The information given to the public is often not presented in a way that is discernible to people who are not in the school system or in an educational field. People simply want a clear, concise, timely answer to their concerns. Lastly, low testing scores of our children. I don't know if it's a curriculum or what, but teachers will be creative if you give them a chance. Public perception of the schools as a whole have frustrated and discouraged innovative teaching. This has caused many teachers to resign and move on to other school systems. They're not insurmountable problems, nor are they insignificant, but we can't progress till we deal with them. And ultimately, final decisions lays with the school board on how to fix these issues. And we need the help from the public. We need to allow you to help us. Please stay involved.
And once again, I'm going to come back to trust. That's what I feel is the most pressing issue across the board. Is there seems to be a lack of trust. I hear it. I see it on social media. I hear it when I talk to people, different groups that I'm involved in. Transparency would help. School board being very clear, all groups being very clear with what they need, with what they're doing, with why they're doing it. I see that it feels like people in the community don't necessarily trust the school board, maybe with good reason, but we need to reestablish trust with our school board, with our administrators, with our teachers. Our teachers need to trust that what they're doing in the classroom is going to be supported. Students and parents need to trust that when they go to a teacher, that they're going to be heard. When they go to an administrator, they're going to be heard. Trust needs to be rebuilt in this community, and especially in our school. And that is the thing that I think we can fix with transparency, with clear process, procedures. We need to be clear. We need to get information out there to people so that they understand what is happening in schools, and so that parents feel heard and children feel heard and administrators feel heard. And that buck stops with the school board.
The most pressing issue for me, again, I have a unique viewpoint on it because of my role But this is the, out of all the questions I was reading through, the one I can speak to as far as my convictions, my beliefs the most is school safety. Unfortunately, the world we're living in today, maybe one of the reasons I took the job as the SRO is because if that threat ever came to our door, somebody would be ready to beat it to protect the most precious of all of our valuables, which is our children. School safety covers so much, it's such a blanket statement, I know, but when we have students, look at like the low scores, low grades, the trust, I feel like that trust needs to be proved. It needs the administrators, teachers, the staff, the school district, the board has to prove what we have in place to keep kids safe so that they can trust that process. I spent my first year as SRO. I've said it a few times, said in the paper, our release, I don't think it's been printed yet though. When I took over as SRO, our last school emergency operation plans were updated in 2008. And it was a flip chart, laminated, that kind of document. It was kind of some 2 pages. It was folded up, crinkled in a desk that somebody found. We worked all year long with groups from across the state, SROs, maybe DOE, the feds. We drafted, I think it was like 32 pages for a school emergency operation plan to cover everything within the school that you could possibly be prepared for. We formed safety teams, we formed it's called CSTAG, did threat assessments, which offered interventions to students that are on pathway to violence, whether they brought a weapon to school or threatened violence. It's giving them interventions as well as the victims of threats. I can tell you all that's been done away with, and this year we have weapons being brought into school, we have drugs being dealt in school, we have students being beat up in school, we have students who won't go in the bathroom because of the amount of smoking going on. We've had everything we accomplished the first year has been completely cut this year. Our camera system went away, fake detection went away. I was given an office and told to stay in it. We're not a police state, we're not gonna make criminals out of kids. And I completely agree with that statement, but I agree with if kids are showing up to school and their concern is, do I bring a knife today or not to be protected? We have basic problems like making them feel safe and secure in the building they're in so that we can start addressing some of the other issues.
To me, the most important pressing issue is mental health. And why the teachers are leaving, not all of them are unhappy. Some of them might be. However, we are also not paying those teachers well. They are not able to live on it. So that's mostly why they go to Falmouth, they went to Portland, they went because of the money, okay? And in terms of trust, trust is a two-way street. If the community members don't trust the school board, then something needs to be done. I feel that as a school board member this past 2 terms, we trusted the community, but we're not always right. Neither is the community. So we have to find out a way where we can work together, and trust is a very hard thing to get because it doesn't just come to you. We have to work on it. And that's what happened everywhere. And on the scores, okay, so most of our students are affected by the COVID years. The first year where they completely were online, that wasn't so productive. After that, it was the hybrid. That didn't work well. So our kids are suffering because of that also, and in a worse way. And that was our first trial. How do we do this so that we can continue to help our students graduate with good grades and knowledge?
Can you pass the microphone down to Doug? We're going to move on to question number 3. And Doug will answer first, and the question is, our overall enrollment numbers have decreased significantly, particularly in the last 10 years. There's been some concern in the community regarding recent school rankings and test scores. What would you do to address these concerns, and what steps would you propose that the school board take?
Well, the overall enrollment numbers, that's a problem everywhere, not just here. But the last 3 school board meetings that I went to, I watched parents of 10 children, 3 sets of parents. I don't know if they followed through, threatening to take their children out of the school system because they weren't happy. Some of it was personal issues, I suppose, and one was bullying. Those things, you know, you have to tackle them as they come, but the other part of it is with the reputation we have as a school system, people don't want to be here. And it makes it hard to attract students, you know, when we have all the discord in the community like we have and at the school system, you know. The things we went through in the last year, that didn't, you know, that didn't put a shining light out to, you know, to the rest of the state and the area. Watching, you know, some of the issues we had. I'm not saying anybody was right or wrong, it happened, but it's unfortunate. Those are the type things that we had to diffuse before they even happen. I don't know, regarding recent school rankings and test scores, that'll come with hard work and, you know, they have a trial. You know, you can't condemn the school board for trying a new way to teach the kids. If it doesn't work, you tweak it and you move on. But, you know, they made the attempt. We just have to change the atmosphere in the school system so the teachers can be more innovative and creative. They're the key to our success. The teachers have to be happy. They have to have the tools to work with, and they need the support. So, I don't know how you fix it other than you just cooperate with each other and try to find a way.
This seems to be a two-part question, so I'm going to try to give a two-part answer. For overall enrollment numbers decreasing, I'm wondering why there wasn't an exit interview done for families who are leaving. It seems to me that we should have some very clear data as to why children are leaving our schools. And that seems to be very blurry. Nobody, once again, Doug was like, might be a personal problem, might be bullying, it would be really nice to have clear data as to why are families choosing to pull children from our schools. And from that clear data, we can then put plans in place to fix the problem. But without clear data in place, without knowing why families are leaving our schools, we can't fix it. So that would be the first thing I would put in place, is to have exit interviews and find out why are people leaving our schools, so that we have a clear place to work from. The second part with our test scores is I would like to see the overall trends around the test scores, because that can influence how you pick curriculum, how you work through curriculum. If you see that there's a deficit in a certain area in your testing, you can then look at your curriculum and, well, why are 5th grade fractions so much lower than, you know, everything else looks good, but then this is rock bottom. You go back and you look at your curriculum. I'm not saying that you teach to a test. That's not how it works. It needs to be, but your testing should inform your curriculum choices so that you know what it is that your children are lacking in, so that you can then fix that problem with curriculum. So that is what I would do with the school board, is I would have a committee that could put together a team to look at that, and then of teachers, because it would be teachers that would be the ones on the ground doing this.
I'll put that in twofold too, and I can't speak for the last 10 years. I'm only going to speak from personal experience, because I'll only ever speak to what I know firsthand. I think we've heard enough rumors over the past 2 years to fill us all up. The families I've talked to over the past 2 years who have pulled their students out of school for a number of reasons. Unfortunately, I became a cop because I wanted to stop responding to bad situations and actually be proactive and help the kids have a good shot at life. I don't want to just be a badge and I got into school. But when I haven't made it through a school year yet, without having to arrest a staff member for putting their hands on a student, that's the first and foremost problem. I've had staff members throw a student over a table, staff members sexually touching a student. we need to raise our quality of what we're allowing around our students. Coaches punching each other out in front of a basketball team. Stuff like that. How do you expect our kids need clear-cut accountability, guidelines, standards to meet? We don't need to create a police state and crack down all kids, but if I let my kids go watch YouTube and then at the end of the day, so what'd you do all day? And they say we sat on the couch and watched YouTube for 10 hours. You can't blame the students, you gotta blame the people that were accountable for them. As far as test scores, I can tell you, more walking the halls, from listening to previous administrators telling students, you're never gonna amount to anything in life. Drop out now and save us both time of you failing out. To that student, meant tutoring with me 1 hour a day for a few months to now being successful, all passing grades, planning to enlist when they graduate from high school, because somebody took time to invest with them. But when we have teacher shortages or sub shortages or nobody to cover classes, most often you'll see a group of students with no accountable adult stuck into the library until we go in there for a study hall. You'll walk in, they'll be playing on their phone, they'll be watching YouTube, they'll be watching Netflix. And when them and I both know they got failing grades. So I think personal investment in these students is the way to get test scores up, personal pride, personal accountability, showing them they can be something in their lives. If somebody cares enough to sit down with them and work on what the areas are that they're failing in.
So I'm not sure about the overall enrollment decreasing, but perhaps people moving to Wiscasset don't have any children that are at school age. So that could be one of the problems, because Wiscasset is considered what do you call that, a tourist place where you can live here and it's quiet, it's safe. So that might be one of the reasons why. And also, well, some of the students are being moved, and I'm not sure why, because we were never told about the reason why. So that's another point that, we need to figure out what it is that creating all this movement. In terms of the scores, okay, teachers can only teach what they can teach, but students also has something, sometimes they cannot learn because of different reasons. Like Officer Barnes had mentioned, they sometimes are hungry, they sometimes come with different situations from home. So children are human beings. They are not machines. So it's not like you put something in a machine and it will work. Children need to be human beings that will grow up to be more involved and productive citizens.
I don't know whether I'm qualified to talk about the decrease in numbers. The one thing that I feel like I can address is the recent school rankings and test scores. In my experience, what I've done before, our professional development, which happens every week, I think it happens here every other week, maybe, I'm not sure. We would have professional development where all teachers would get together and we'd be in like curriculum groups. Like I would meet with other science teachers, the English teachers would meet, the reading teachers, math, whatever. And we'd look at test scores and we'd see, I think Tracy mentioned it before, we would look at where the majority of kids weren't doing well, and we would implement, changes in the curriculum so that the kids would get the information they needed. Again, in Massachusetts, I think we did teach the test, but I could see the fault in that. But to change your lesson plan so that you knew you were hitting is what I did when I came into 5th grade at Wiscasset Elementary. You look and see where they're at and what they need, and then you teach those kinds of things where the holes are, so we could improve test scores that way. The decrease in population, I do know that it's happening everywhere, and I do know that there's a teacher shortage as well, so it's a struggle for everybody.
Okay, we are moving on to question number 4 on your sheet. Tracy will answer the question first, and the question is, building on the previous question, what are your thoughts on the possibilities of tuitioning out our high school students, a regional high school, or other structural changes to our system?
Of course, I get this one. I guess my thoughts on it are, all things are on the table because we have to do what's best for our students. We need to look at we need to give them the most opportunity. If that most opportunity means that we, I hate to say, close a high school and send them to places where they are going to get the skills they need to have productive lives, then that's what we should do. If it means bolstering up our high school and offering those things in-house, that's what we should do. We need to look at that though. We need a comprehensive plan in place for what our options are. This question is very open-ended. It's without the data, without the background to know what numbers look like for the middle school coming up into the high school. I mean, if the high school is failing, we need to look at that. We need to look at all options because ultimately, we're all adults. We all had our time at school. Our children, they only get 4 years of high school. If we screw up 3 of those 4 years, that's on us. So we need to look at what is best for them and give them the most opportunities necessary. I don't know what the best answer is to that. We would need to have a group go and really look at all options and be really clear again and really transparent as to what the pros and cons are for all of these scenarios in order to know what we need to do for our kids.
I think the best thing I agree on that is we don't know what the best answer is as far as putting out high school students, regional high school, structural changes. And then I go back to, that shouldn't be a 5-person decision. I think we've seen enough over the past few years of 5 people control exactly what happens and when it happens in our school district, regardless of what you and I as a parent think or say. I think the parents need to be involved. Parents need to be polled. They need to be brought in on all the data we collect. What's in the committees where we get the data, we get the pros and cons, we get everything that weighs out what decision, what direction we want to go. But remember that we're not a 5-person panel, whoever sits on the board that makes that decision. We should make that vote based on what the community wants, what the parents want, what the students want. Some students would rather go to a bigger school with more sports. Some students would rather stay here because of the community and small feel we have and the personal connections they have with the staff members. I think it's important to remember 5 people don't control that or shouldn't control that. 1 person shouldn't control that. It should be a community effort. This is a community school. This is a community environment. Wiscasset is the prettiest little village. I've had the opportunity to learn the inside and outside this town over the past 6 years, from working overnights to day shift, to seeing all the bad things that happen in the town when the sun goes down, to all the great things that are going on in our community and in our schools. I know I hit a lot on school safety stuff. People think I beat that horse, but we have a lot of good stuff going on in our schools. We have a lot of great kids in our school districts who are going to do amazing things in their lives, whether it's a regional high school or here, because that's just who they are as people. But we as adults need to realize that first and foremost, we're here to do what's best for these students, whether it's here or regional, no matter what it is. But as a board, it's to do what our elected people, the people that elected us wants to do. So I'm not a politician, I don't know what any of the terms are, but the people that vote for us, like if I can vote on the school board, it doesn't matter what I want to do for regional or keep the school central or close it all down, ship the students out. To me, all that matters is what the people that voted for me, what do they want? What do you guys want for your kids? And as a board, that's our responsibility to then vote for that to happen.
Okay, we already have that. We work with the band. Oh, it's what is it, the school in band that we send high schools students to, the technology, yes. Okay, so that's already tuitioning out. And 5 of us don't make the decision. The budget, yes, we approved it, but the people in Wiscasset approved it. I mean, by a landslide, so that's not our decision only. And parents already have the option to send your student, your children somewhere else. Because that's what it is. The state tells us that we can do that. Yes, we do. So. Okay, other structural changes to our system, well. Come and talk to us. I mean, do you know how many people come to our monthly meetings? Not many. So I would encourage you to come and talk to us.
My answer is going to be very short. I don't know. I really don't, I don't have an opinion about it. I don't think I know enough about what it would mean. I know there's some history there that I'm not fully aware of because I wasn't a Mainer at the time. But I think I need to know more information and look at the data before making a decision. And I think that sounds like what most of us, or some of us, think.
Well, I agree with Jonathan. 5 people shouldn't make that decision. There should be some form of a committee that all parties involved are a part of. But I do believe the school board's role in that would be to make sure that that committee receives true and factual information. That whatever they ask for is presented to them so they can make an informed decision at the end of the day. Whatever that decision is, we know they had everything available to them for information to make that decision. That's critical.
Okay, we will be moving on to question number 5 on your sheet. Jonathan will answer this question first. And the question is, serving as an elected official requires both the ability to be transparent and respond to citizens' concerns and questions, and also often requires a level of confidentiality and discretion during some situations such as legal issues. How do you approach balancing these two seemingly competing values?
I think both are equally important. You hear the word transparency and transparent used a lot. I don't know what we quoted it, but it says you're using that word. I don't think you know what it means. I'm not saying that directly to anybody here. I'm saying in general, transparency literally means that see through, like you know exactly what's going on with your children, with their education, with what's happening on the day-to-day operations of the school as parents. Yes, we have FERPA. There's confidentiality issues with student records, education, stuff like that. IEPs, Bible 4, stuff that you can't share with them public, you can't come talk to unless you have a need to know what their educational, what's going on directly with them. Like I say, from personal experience, what I've seen, that's used as a cop out more than it's not. Well, it's confidential, we can't talk about it. Trust us, we'll handle it. There's also, under confidentiality, the safety exclusion, the law, that if there's a safety concern about something, you can go talk to people who need to know, even if it includes certain confidential information. I think we need to stay away from anything that could create legal issues with confidential issues that could open up the school district or liability issues. But I don't think that's something to hide behind. I think it's studying the law, know what the law says, know what you can and cannot say, but don't use that as when a parent sends an email or a phone call or a question that goes and answers for weeks or months on end. And then when you finally get an answer, we can't talk about that. We can't tell you what trust us for handling. That's not transparency. Transparency is telling people as much as you can. Yes, discretion comes into it, morals come into it, ethics come into it. We're not going to trash talk anybody or put anybody down. But I think as a parent, especially as a parent with kids in school, I want to know exactly what's happening with my kids on a day-to-day basis. I want to know what they're learning. I want to know what they're doing on recess. I want to know what they're checking out from the library. Like, I want to know what my kids are doing on a day-to-day basis in the school. I don't want to be told, I'm the teacher, I'm the admin, try to educate them. You parent will teach. I think you can do both.
Yeah, confidentiality is a very slippery place because we have the confidentiality. And we usually would refer to the attorneys, the school attorneys, and then they would tell us how much we could share. So that's, otherwise we get sued, and then what? Right? I mean, funding is slim. We don't have that much to give away. So I was told years ago, during my first term, that I'm not supposed to go to the school unless the superintendent approves it. And I know that school board members can go to any school they wanted and visit. And there is none of that, but I think it was not Bob, the previous one. I can't remember her name.
Carrie.
Yes. And that was specifically told me that I cannot visit the schools unless she's with me or I have permission from her. But my school board members in Portland, they come to the schools like whenever they want to, and they can talk to any teachers, whenever they want to. So there is also a different perspective or rules or whatever it is in Wiscasset that we need to adhere. So our hands are most of the time tied. So, and we can't just blabber to anybody, so that's what it is. It's a tough place. I think it's so easy.
Again, I'm going to have to plead ignorance on the question of transparency regarding citizens' concerns. I think it would make sense to me if the school board had some way of notifying parents what's happening. I don't know whether do you do any kind of a posting of, no,
I'm not supposed to.
you're not supposed to. See how little I know about that. Well, it's all, but they can come to a meeting. Parents can come, to me, that's transparent, right? Parents can come to a meeting and learn what's going on and ask questions during a specified period. So to me, that seems transparent. The confidentiality and discretion, if you've been a teacher, ethically, legally, you're not allowed to release any information about any of your students, not just on an IEP, an individual education plan, but about anything, their health, their welfare, their grades, who they see socially, that's all private, so, and confidential. So I think that's something I spent the last 25 years respecting, and I would continue to do that.
Thanks.
You're welcome. I feel like I know you now.
Well, to me, you're transparent as a board. A lot of these issues go away. People aren't frustrated. They're not looking for answers where they should be looking. My answer would be, no, come to a school board meeting, voice your concerns, and we'll address it. I mean, as a school board member, I wouldn't be able to discuss anything to do with teachers, students, anything of that nature. I mean, it's just a common sense thing. And, I would beg them to come to a school board meeting. I've been to a few school board meetings. I think maybe we need to change the format a little bit so people can be heard in a different way. But that's a thing that we handle, with the board. And basically, you don't give information that would be about someone or by someone ever. Simple as that.
And I would have to say I agree with that exactly. You can be transparent with, once again, your procedures, your protocols, your agenda, you allow people to speak. That gives transparency. People are allowed to know what's going on and are allowed to give their input. And that's where you address transparency, is at the school board level. But if people are asking about someone else's child, about a teacher, about an administrator, you can't, that's something that people have to understand is something that is confidential. But I think if you give people opportunity, like Doug said, to speak and to be heard in an appropriate manner, they're not going to start looking for, or less and less, they're going to start looking for information that isn't in their purview. And it comes back to trust again, because if people are trusting that the school board is hearing their concerns, then they're going to also trust when the school board says, I'm sorry, that is a confidential matter that we can't discuss with you. But we have to build trust first. If we don't have trust in what's going on in the school boards and the school, people aren't going to hear that. So that's the first step that we need to take.
We'll go first. Okay, moving on to question number 6, and Ina will answer the question first, and I'll read the question. If elected, what would you do to instill public trust in the school board?
It's the same question.
So another one of those.
I know. Okay. I guess we're stuck on trust. I am on the board of directors of the Maine School Board Association. And exactly, we have things that we need to follow. It's not up for grab, it's not just for all, but the superintendent has always opened his or her office for any of the community members who have anything to discuss, and that would be confidential. If it is your child, you can talk about that. And trust comes, like I said already earlier, it's a two-way street. It's not just from, we trust you, but it's hard for us to make you trust us, because it's difficult, because if you don't trust us, what should we do? What do you want us to do? And it doesn't matter sometimes what we do. It's like, that's the way it goes, We stuck on trust.
I do believe this is a very similar question, instilling public trust. It was this similar to the last one, and I would say the same thing, that to me, trust comes from transparency, which we're all saying the same thing. And in order to have that transparency, an exchange of ideas at a productive school board meeting, I've been to a few, and it seems that sometimes during the public comment, it gets a little bit, I would call it out of control, at least out of control from my point of view. If it was productive, people followed the rules of the meeting. But I think it's the same thing about being at the elementary school and wanting parent participation. It works both ways. If you want us to be and I'm saying us as educators, if you want us to be transparent, you have to hold up your end of the bargain. That's what I think. And I think it's the same thing with a school board. You need to come to the meetings, be respectful, listen, look at the agenda, have some meaningful questions, and move forward in a positive way.
So again, talking about trust, or should I say distrust, I don't know either way, it's the same thing, elected. Well, first of all, what people fail to understand, I think, is the voters, taxpayers, they're the school board's boss. So you have to take into their concerns as to how things are happening and find a way to allay their concerns. Make them feel a part of the process. I'm not so sure the school board meetings are conducive to that. I've been to a few. It's really hard to follow the reasoning as to how things happen. Questions don't get answered. And then they're relevant questions. I've gone to 3 school board meetings. I've gone to the town meeting. Same question answered, asked every single time. What are the number of Wiscasset residents in our school system? And I have yet to hear an answer.
You probably change your statement.
It doesn't matter. You can answer it as of that day. It's only going to change by a student or two. People get frustrated when they ask those type of questions. It's a simple answer. It's simple. What day is it today? It's Tuesday, right?
No, it's
Well,
not.
well, it's a second day of the week.
No, it's.
So, you know, that's all I'm saying is, and I think from the public's perspective, you're being evasive. Even though you're not, but to them you are. That's a lack of transparency to them. They don't trust you anymore. Those type of questions need to be answered when they're asked. That's all. Thank you.
And I have to say, I agree with that. So if elected, what would I do to instill public trust? Clarity. We need to be clear. We need to be clear with what the expectation is at a meeting. We need to be clear with following through with answering questions. We need to be clear with people as to what's going on. If the school board is here because they are elected by the people. And if the people are questioning what the school board is doing, then the school board, it is their responsibility, our responsibility if we are on the school board, to make it so that it is clear for the people that elected us. It is not, we need to find a way within the structures that are allowed to us to make it clear for the people in our community. And by making things clear, we can then build that trust again. And then we're able to move forward and do all the other things we need to do for our students.
Sorry, so if elected, I'll keep circling back with that, this keyword elected. If you're elected, you're exactly that. You're an elected official speaking for the people. I think the first step to building public trust is to be trustworthy. Don't be above reproach. Don't do things that cause you to be called into question. I understand confidentiality issues. I understand certain things can't be answered, can't be spoken to, because for whatever reasons. But you can't expect people to trust you when you do things or make decisions that baffle everybody's brain, left and right, as matter where you land. People are asking, well, why was this decision made? Trust us. That doesn't work for me. I understand things like talking about personnel, for example, you can't talk about specific staff members or students or principal. We can reference our title. But when the public asks questions, like we hire a superintendent, we have a clear policy for Wiscasset that lists out your qualifications to be a superintendent in our school district. When you don't match any of the 5 requirements, the 6th clause in our policy says the school board can still override the first 5 steps and hire somebody that they think would be a good fit. And I'm all for them. If you're a businessman and I was going to hire somebody who didn't have experience, but they were well respected in the community, well liked, had a good connection here, I'm all for giving somebody a chance. If I was a business owner, I would offer them 1 year. Come work for us, prove yourself, prove your worth. I would not turn around within your first year and extend your contract to 7 years instead of 2 and not explain to the public why you did that. Haven't proven, you can argue either way. It doesn't, whether you prove you're doing a good job, prove you're doing a bad job. But how do behind closed doors you make a decision like that without any explanation and then say, trust us. If you want to be trusted, make trustworthy decisions that people can see and understand. As far as instilling public trust, I think we need oversight. I think we need to have clear policies as far as how do we recall somebody? If I get elected and I don't hold to my word, I will do what I was elected to do, which is listen to you people. How do you recall me? How do you point to my seat and say, you're not doing the job we hired you to do, you're gone? That's one of my first orders of business. We aside, hopefully establishing an oversight group, a policy, so that there's accountability. Because if you want trust, you have to have accountability to the people who elect you.
Could you pass it down to Betsy, please?
you're.
Okay, so we're at the last question, question number 7 on your sheet, and then we'll follow this up with a 2-minute closing statement after everybody's completed. We'll go through the same process. Okay, so question number 7 is, what would be your top priorities to address the rising cost of the school budget?
Well, you're probably waiting for me to say something brilliant, and I wish I had something brilliant to say, but I went to the budget meeting. I thought everything that was asked for, I know that this probably isn't popular, but I thought the increase was reasonable compared to what other schools in our area have for a percentage of raise from last year's budget. I mean, I sat there and looked at every single item and they seemed reasonable to me. So, I don't really, the rising cost to me is part of what's going on in the world, I guess. It's part of inflation. It's part of what's happening in a corner of New England. And I think it's reasonable. So you're not going to get a complaint from me about the budget.
Well, I don't think the school board saw the vote for the budget the way the budget has passed. Citizens passed it because they want to support the schools and the children. But the fact of the matter is, we're spending way too much money for what we're getting for a product. How do we fix that? That's only through better test scores, better, money isn't being wasted. It's just, we want a better product for what we're spending. I had one person make a statement during the meeting, said, I'm not upset with what we're spending. I just wish we were getting, a better result for the amount of money we're spending. When you're spending $26,000 a student and the average is 18, and, you should have a better product than what we're getting. You can't rip the legs off from under the teachers and the students and people trying to make this all work. So that wasn't an affirmation for a good job for the past year. That was just people being realistic. We have to support our schools, but how do we fix them in the meantime? So, yeah, there's not much you can do with the budget. It costs what it costs. And, there are cost centers you can visit, but we have, a lot of hard work ahead of us trying to figure out how to get more for the money we spend.
And I have to say, I agree with that. I would never want to cut the legs out from under the educators in our school. That's that should never be an option. But one thing that I will say, because I did sit through the budget meeting, is it wasn't terribly clear. Things we were voting on, once again, I'm coming back to clarity. You got a number and for each article, and it was a pretty big number. And then underneath, you got a list, and not even like a list, but a list of, in a sentence form, of what all that covered. I don't know how many teachers that covered. I don't know how many master teachers that is. I don't know how many apprentice teachers that is. I don't know what those numbers mean. I don't know how many disposable items you needed for the classrooms. I don't know how many books you needed to buy. I'm not saying I need to see a huge spreadsheet, but it would have been nice to see Article 2, regular classroom. This is how many teachers, this is their rank, this is what salaries look like. This is what our disposables were. This is what we are projecting next year for need for furniture and for books, so that I can make an informed decision so you can make an informed decision around the budget. It seemed, and I'm just saying, I'm sure that's the way it's always been done, but I don't know what's the best way to do it. It would be nice to have a little more information around the budget before you all are sitting in an auditorium voting on things, before I was sitting in an auditorium voting on things. I didn't feel like I had enough information. And we can't support our students, we can't support our teachers if we don't have the information to do it.
Kind of go back to what Doug said, let's call it, how do you get the most bang for your buck? The budget's always gonna be increasing, always gonna be going up, at least let's get the most we can for our money. Let's stop hiring unqualified staff, working our buildings and to govern our district and put people in place who can, whether experienced to lead us through stuff like a budget process. I really have nothing but questions for the budget. I don't tend to be a budget guy. I do know if I hired you to come paint my house and you use the cheapest paint that half the job, I'd fire you and hire somebody else. I mean, it's about time we do the same thing with elected officials. You hire you to do a job, if you don't do it, you're gone. I have nothing but questions as far as the rising cost of the budgets. I would like to see the numbers such as how much tens of thousands of dollars we paid out in the last 2 years just in lawsuits against the district. Including the pending one we have right now, where a violent student that I, the SRO was told, this is a school matter, not a police matter, stay out of it, then broke a student's arm in 2 places and assaulted a teacher so violently she's out of work and now suing the district. Which all could have been solved if we had offered that. Obviously struggling, there's no bad kids, there's kids in crisis. If we reached those kids where they were at and offered intervention before it got to that point, we failed that student. Yes, they're responsible for their decisions and what they did, but we failed them by recognizing a year ago this was coming and doing nothing to protect our staff and students from that assault. We've heard before from other meetings that most administrators raise their hand when asked if they've been assaulted. I'd like to know how much money we're paying out for stuff like that. Stuff like, I hear, again, I'm not here to say which one side or the other. I'm not here to speak to personal opinions. But as far as like a personnel decision to terminate a principal, whether you agree with it or disagree with it, could have been a personnel decision. You didn't do the job you're hired to do. We don't like, for all these reasons, you're fired. I do know just one attorney for one person during that, whatever you want to call it, cost upwards of $30,000. So how much did 3 attorneys for months-long investigations and several hearings cost us? That's taxpayer money that we all put in. I live here, I pay taxes here. How much of that money is going to that instead of what we need to better support our students on the day-to-day activities?
Yeah, I agree with you. A lot of kids are in crisis. So, but the cost, everything will go up. It's not going to stop. Do we want to deprive our children to not get the best education? And how do you know product? Schools don't generate revenue. And it takes more than 12 years in school and then 3 or 4 years in higher ed. That's 17 years. That's when we find out what the product is. And I have seen our students from Wiscasset, one of them is Miss Whitfield, right? And I have seen many of the students who were here who recognized me. Mrs. Demers, I'm such and such. I said, what do you do now? Oh, I work in the recycling center in Wiscasset. I said, awesome. One of them is working as a fireman in Portland. I saw him in the store. So the product is not seen like the next day. It takes at least 17 years to show that. And this is why I'm running again for my 3rd term. And it's a job that doesn't pay, but sometimes it's a lot of time that I spend. But it's for our students. No, it doesn't pay, actually. And when you become a school board member, you're going to understand how hard it is to decide. And yes, we have that burden on our shoulder. No pay, we have to decide. And then we have angry community members at us. So, and our children are in crisis because So many things is happening. And everybody can ask questions during the meetings. We have a monthly meeting, and you can always email the superintendent and get information, but not about other people, about your own children.
Pass it down to Doug.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've gotten through all of the questions. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Each candidate will get 2 more minutes for a closing statement to say whatever you like. And Doug will go first and rotate through.
Well, we've covered quite a bit of ground here, trust being the big one. I think that together we can make our school system an amazing place to be. You know, we can make it the envy of other school systems. It's gonna take a lot of work. We have to decide that's where we wanna be, decide, okay, now how do we get there? Let us be the topic of positive conversations instead of what was in the paper last year. You know, become a role model on how to educate our students. Use the resources available to us, meaning our teachers. They're amazing. If they are given the opportunity to be creative, have a free hand and a freer hand in how they teach their curriculum and develop it. And you'd be surprised what will happen. We need to get our teachers involved in a way that will progress the education of our students. They're the key to all of this. Administrators come and go. They're a dime a dozen. The teachers are the ones that we have to make sure have the resources available to them to get the job done. Nothing happens without our support for the teachers. I invite and encourage you to participate so we can realize positive, meaningful progress for our students and our community. You know, it'd be nice to talk to people in a positive way about things instead of, oh, gee, what happened up to school? You know, yeah, did you see what happened up to the school, the awards these kids got? And they're on the robotics team and what they did when they went to the meeting? That would be an amazing thing, you know, and you know, I just hope everybody stays involved. Until the Grovers created enough interest, we never had this. People ran unopposed. Nobody wanted the position. Nobody cared.
Right.
And this is where we're at because of it. So please get involved. Help us make a difference.
It's on the money, that was great.
I've been timing that.
Well, and I have to say, I agree completely with Doug. We need to all stay involved. I mean, I've only been in town 3 years, but this is an issue that needs to be addressed. I want to do this for the children of this community, for the parents in this community, for all the community members, taxpayers in this community. That's why I'm running. I'm running because we all need to be involved. I'm happy to see lots of people running. I'm happy to see you all out here tonight listening. I would love to see more interaction with the schools and the children in this community and more support for our teachers. I agree with Doug with that too. Our teachers are the ones that are going to make the difference. I was a teacher. It's a lot more work than just the quote unquote few months that you're in the classroom. You don't just go into that because you get the summers off. Teachers work year round. Teachers work day and night. And we need to support them. And in turn, that supports our children. We all need to be involved. We all need to show a positive light on our schools and start shining that light on our schools.
When it's Q break, when I started, I was not a politician. I'm a farm boy, grew up hunting and fishing and scrapping for a buck, keep the lights on. We broke a window when we were kids, covered it with a garbage bag. And I fought for everything I had in my life from the ground up. And I continue to fight as hard as I can as a professional, even now. Schoolwork essentially serves the role of reviewing and approving budgets, reviewing, hiring, appraising superintendents. and reviewing and installing policies. And doing that should be through the community involvement, community buy-in. We should have policies from the school board that only serves the credit of the school board. We need to get back to the basics of restoring order, restoring checks and balance, where the school district goes from your day-to-day operations to your building administrators, to your superintendent, to your school board, to your taxpayers, in that order. When I've heard school board members say, the reason we always vote 5-0 is because we have to do whatever the chair says. And other school board members say, we have to do whatever the superintendent says. That's how the school district works. We are completely backwards. We need to just restore the order of things and be accountable. So everybody sitting here and everybody that works and has kids in this district, in this community. Like I said, I'm here, if I get elected, I'm here to do what the constituents want, what you guys want. I'm here to bring back a fun, safe environment for kids to learn in these classrooms. I can't skip royalty, bring back teachers like Miss Templeton, who's worked in our school district, and students and staff. Well, so building relationships. If we could just focus on building relationships and making this a great place for the children, and relationships on the school board. We don't always have to agree. We shouldn't see a 5-0 vote, every meeting going back for however long. We should be able to be respectful adults, disagree, agree, vote according to our conscience, our moral, more importantly, on the line with people that elected us. Let's still get along as adults and respect each other and work together for what we all, regardless of how we see it, we're all here for what's best for the kids. We all want what's best for these students in this district. We may have different ideas of what that looks like, but that's why it's important to get the buy-in of people that elected us, and what they want that to look like.
Okay. I was elected twice, maybe unopposed. But my passion is for the kids. Okay, but sometimes we don't hear too much. So I was the one who also proposed that students are in the school board. I mean, we have 2 now. And that's what should be. Okay, more maybe, but that's what the main school board association is asking us to do, is have to. And I will always make sure that the students are well served. And times are changing. This is not 1950, this is not even 1990, none. Okay, we're changing. And so many things have changed, especially with the pandemic, and the community needs to change with, well, go with the flow. But I just want to thank you for your interest and for your time to spend here. And so our students can benefit from all of us. I agree. Sometimes I don't agree also, and I raise my hand, but or not. But believe me or not, you as parents, grandparents, you are also teachers of the children, whoever you have in your family. Thank you.
Don't forget to vote on June 11th. If you were to vote for me, what I think I bring, especially, and I didn't write notes, I was very impressed over here, you did good notes. I didn't write notes, but I think after listening to everybody, I think the thing that I could bring is I have no baggage. I'm not privy to all the decisions that happened at the high school about the principal, or what teachers did this to that, or what's been going on with the superintendent or anything. I have a fresh approach, an open mind, a good outlook. I'm always, the glass is half full, and not half empty. And I just feel like I've always brought that into my classroom. And I love to see things get done. I like to make sure that the voters feel like the school board is doing a good job. And I definitely get a sense that that's not what's happening. But that can change and we can make a difference. But you have to vote on June 11th. And I'm done early.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I think all our candidates deserve a round of applause. I'll have the last word. Anybody that has spent any time boards and Wiscasset knows it's a lot more work than people realize. So we thank you all for having the guts and the desire to come in and help us with this problem, which is one of the biggest problems we face as a community. So thank you very much.
Sorry, I'm gonna do the last word. I just wanna say thank you and a round of applause for Tom for helping. Wanted to thank all the candidates. I know as well as anybody how hard it is to be an elected official. So I appreciate you all being willing to be on the ballot and to serve. I will echo, please do vote on June 11th, or if you're not gonna be around, you can get absentee ballots. Please, please, please vote. In history in general, we've been pretty good as a town, being better at getting many people out than other towns around us, and I hope that trend continues. I would also encourage you, obviously, we didn't do 30 questions tonight. I hope we got at a lot of the issues that you were looking to. But I would encourage you to talk to all the candidates as well, just in general. And also, I believe the Wiscasset newspaper reached out to all of you with questions, so I'm pretty sure that's coming out this week. So I encourage you to keep an eye out for that for more information as well. So thank you again for coming out tonight, and thank you to our candidates.
Cheers or anything? Let me just shut this off.
Sarah, does somebody?
You did.